When I was talking about the show, I thought to myself, this would be a really great resource for new parents and new mothers that are in the position that I'm in, that have questions, that don't know what to ask. And this was going to be a way for me to kind of find out what those questions were for myself.
My background is in human and organizational systems and human development. And just based on my own birth experiences, which were a number of years ago, I've come to the conclusion that people want to make their own choices, but they want to make informed choices. So what we're aiming to do with this TV series is to present information, to bring in subject matter experts, to talk to parents, and explore the kaleidoscope of choices that are available to new parents. Fathers have a special place in the transformation to parenthood. Just like mothers, they go through each step of the journey in their own way. They too have excitement, fear, and joy, and each father's journey is unique. In this episode, we'll hear from 4 dads. They're candid, humorous, and poignant. We start the episode off with Jay and Rosanna talking about the special moments that dads go through and the importance of being frank about the reality of becoming a parent.
Parenting is one of the most important roles in the universe, but it is all not rainbows and unicorns, and it is damn tough. I mean, Corey and I have a little bit of money, we have a little bit of a clue in terms of what we've done for a living, we've had inordinate support from our families, and I can tell you, it's still damn difficult. And for whatever reason, I don't think enough truth is told about those tough moments.
And then I look over at my husband, and in that moment I see that he's crying and he's just feeling everything that I'm feeling without going through the same process physically. Like emotionally and spiritually, he's right there with me, and I just felt at that moment we were a family. And I was so grateful to everyone in the room to witness a family be born.
If you're going to come into the process of parenthood, do it as consciously as you can. Meaning, eyes wide open, knowing it's the most beautiful, amazing thing in the universe, and knowing that it is going to get between you and your spouse. It is going to get between you and your family. It is going to get between you and your job. It is going to get between everything. And that's both the good news and the bad news wrapped into one. And, you know, here for more truth about the process.
We'd been trying for 6 to 8 months, and my wife was starting to believe that it was never going to happen. And I was working nights at the time, so it was kind of hard. So I was, she was testing like every 3 hours for every day, and I was getting texts, disappointment, and then finally I got a text of like a pee stick with the 2 lines on it, and we were good to go, and she was happier, and I couldn't have been happier.
We were actually planning for a year later. It just so happened that Cheryl, my wife, just got back from Mexico, and the whole time she was in Mexico, she started feeling sick, you know, throwing up here and there. One morning, she was home, and she rolled out of bed, just felt really nauseous. So I was, I asked her, would you like to try one of the pregnancy tests? Just to, clear that, right? Clear that assumption. So she went in the bathroom. I was sitting on the bed, and all I heard was, "Oh no!" So I just started jumping on the bed. I was like, "Yes," because I've always wanted to be a father, right? And I was excited. I was rolling on the floor, jumping on the bed. Then when she came out of the bathroom, I stood up, like, "You okay? You sure? Is there anything I can do for you?" But in the back of my mind, I was like, "Yes."
We had been planning it, and we'd been talking about it for a while. We'd been married for a little bit, and we're like, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's try for baby. It happened a lot quicker than I think both of us were expecting. I think it was about, a month or a couple weeks in, it was like, whoa. It's like, all right, well, that happened quickly. So I went through the whole range of emotions, excitement, scared, terror, back to excitement again, and then And then it was like, all right, I guess we better start doing some research and figure out what this is going to mean and how is this going to change our life. So we were in Fort McMurray at the time, living there, and it was particularly hot summer. She was pregnant through the summer, and it happened to be about 30, 35 degrees for 3-4 weeks straight. Our bedroom happened to be on the second floor of the house, south facing, no air conditioning in the house, so it was pretty quickly, and there was a trip to the Home Depot, bought a window air conditioner, and I was rigging up an apparatus in the window to keep that bedroom cool, and the rest of the house was hot as heck, but the bedroom was super cool just to keep her comfortable.
As she started getting bigger, I always like to sit closer to her stomach and put my ear on just to hear if I hear anybody knocking. And then it's funny because when our daughter started developing more, I would always put my headphones on the stomach, and then you start seeing doom, 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 doom. Just move it to the beat. You move the headphone away, nothing. Back, doom, 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 doom. So now she loves to dance and sing.
She was stressed out a little bit there because we were trying to find a midwife, and they were in high demand, and we luckily got on with a midwife, and they were there to kind of counsel her through some of the stuff and help her with some natural things to help alleviate some of the symptoms. And I love talking to the belly, and then you get a response just like you did. You just see it kicking, and then after probably the second trimester, it ironed out, and she felt good.
Just watching the transformation, I find it an amazing thing, beautiful, because one, it's not something that people look to do every day, right? And some people just aren't brave enough to want to attempt to have a kid, right? So with the transformation comes, your hips may not be the same anymore, or vice versa, right? But at the end of the day, you're carrying a human being inside you. And I think that's the more important thing I usually look at when it comes to watching the female's body transform because of pregnancy.
The longer it went on, the more beautiful she got. It was, I don't know, it's something in you when you're becoming a father, and it just, I don't know, it melts your heart. You I don't know, it's hard to describe. It makes you more and more attracted to her, that she's carrying your baby.
We took photos every week, kind of through the whole pregnancy, just to watch and just see how her body had changed. But I think like any woman, she went through the whole range of emotions about, my body's never going to be the same, it's never going to look like it did. But guess what? So is mine. Mine's not going to look like mine was too when I was 24 either. But it was a lot of reassurance, a lot of comfort. But from being an engineer, from the whole perspective of she's growing a human being, right? What a fascinating machine, and the changes how it's a complete miracle that the woman's body can grow a whole nother life inside of them, right? So yeah, just fascination and like the others mentioned, just admiration, love that they're growing your child within them.
Now, our dads tell their stories of their partners going into labor and giving birth.
But I was starting immediately to panic, like, oh no, like we gotta go, right? And I was thinking the movies, you gotta get in that car, you gotta grab the bag, you gotta run right away. But I got home and she was calm and collected. We went through the evening, and so we started tracking the contractions and everything else. And I think I was probably a lot more nervous than she was. Towards the end, it actually ended up progressing a lot quicker than the nurses and the doctors were expecting. The doctor ended up missing the pregnancy, so the nurses delivered our first daughter, and consequently also the nurses delivered our second daughter as well, because the doctor missed that one as well. It wasn't until I actually got to hold her and swaddled up that it kind of really hit, and it was pretty, I got pretty emotional. It was like, uh-oh, like it's real now it's go time, right?
I was at work training on the gym floor. It was exactly 9 o'clock. I had my cell phone with me, just waiting on the call, because I knew it was any day, right? So I'm in the middle of my training session with a client, and our client coordinator runs in, Willie, your wife's going into labor. It's like, oh shoot. So I dropped everything I was doing. Sorry, I gotta go. Sprinted out of the gym floor. Like, sorry, this might cover them. Everybody's like, yeah, we got this. So I immediately grabbed my things and sprinted to my truck, drove all the way to the hospital. The whole time she's like, you could take a nap if you want. Like, nope, I'm gonna sit through this whole thing. I'm wide awake, have my camera charged and ready. So I was ready. I had snacks and all. So while she was resting, working on music, whatnot, and then she sat up. Oh, I think it's time. So got my camera out. The nurses rushed in, doctor rushed in, and the whole time she was actually, pushing. She couldn't feel it because of the epidural, right? So, I was holding her hand and coaching her. Her aunt was there also because her aunt works at Peter Lahey. But holding her hand, just coaching her, because coming from a sports background, emotions always rise and drop, right? So it was just one of those things where it's like you're just full of excitement. So no matter what happens, you have a big smile on. When Jada, that's my daughter's name, when she was ready to come out, she kind of did this dive out, her arms were crossed like this, and just whoop, like, oh, she just over to the end zone, touchdown. So all I can remember is me holding the camera, just going woo, 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 right? And then Cheryl looking at me like, really? Like, yes, really.
Her water broke, so I called the midwives. The midwives told us to sit tight, and they came to our house and checked her out, and they kind of let us labor at home until about 9 o'clock. My wife wanted to have a water birth, so we had a birth center rented, so at 9 o'clock they're like, okay, we're getting some action here, we're going to move to the birth center. And we heat up the water and get her in the tub, and everything seems to be going fine, and then they start having problems finding the heartbeat. So it's a blur. I would say 5 or 6 hours at the birth center, and then the midwives made the call that it was too dangerous to continue on there, so we had to transport to the hospital. So and at that point she was still in, she hadn't progressed that far, so I get to drive her to the hospital and I'm nervous as hell, and I decide, okay, I missed the light and the C train's taking too long, and so I work for the city, so I knew a shortcut, so I take the shortcut, and needless to say they installed speed bumps sometime that summer. So we're driving over these gigantic speed bumps, and there's like 4 or 5 of them, and she's like just screaming at me like, this was a horrible idea. I'm like, don't you think I realize this is a horrible idea? I can U-turn and go back over them. So we got to the hospital. They had an OB consult come in, and they were going to let it progress at the hospital with the midwives in control, and they found a heartbeat, and they were all like, everything should be okay, we just got to kind of let this go. And then it ended up progressing too long. My wife was extremely exhausted, so the midwives had to turn control over to a doctor. My wife is just completely exhausted, and they're trying to get her to push, and they get her out, and the doctor like pulls her out, and she's completely gray, and her eyes are bloodshot. I like forget about my wife for a minute while they're taking the baby over there. I'm like, and she's like, is she okay? Like, they didn't even tell us what she was. They took her away to have her nose sucked out. We didn't even know if anything was wrong. And then they bring her over to me, and here you go. And she's all bundled up. I'm like, and what is it? I'm like, we have a baby girl. I'm like, this is horrible. Like this couldn't go any more worse for my poor wife. And I brought her over to my wife, and I'm like, and it's okay, and everything was kind of like, it was actually beautiful. Like she's born at 6:18 in the morning, and our lucky number is 18, and the sun was just coming up, and the foothills, we had a perfect room where you could see the sun coming up over the downtown. So I took a picture of that moment while my daughter and my wife were meeting each other for the first time, and it was just absolutely beautiful after that. And my wife was just completely just beautiful.
Continuing on their journey, Josh, Chris, and Willie share their experiences of parenting. And then we circle back to Jay for final words of wisdom on being a father.
As soon as you go home, it's a whole different world. You really quickly realize that the world doesn't revolve around you and your wife anymore, right? And for me, it was all about my daughter, making sure she's happy and healthy and everything. And early on, pretty easy. Thinking back, taking care of a new baby was pretty easy, other than not sleeping a lot. I think it's brought us as a couple, certainly a lot closer together in some respects. But I don't know if there's been, you know, a distinct moment where you kind of transform into a parent. I think it's just a journey. It's an evolution, and it's constantly changing. We're constantly learning stuff every day.
It was a high, like euphoric, having her home. And me and my wife were good with kids right from the beginning. We knew we wanted to be parents. It gave me a new respect for how strong my wife is, and like I took some time off in the beginning to help her out, but she was born at the tail end of winter, so I make my income during the winter pretty much, and I took as much time as I could off, but I was back working full time after that, so she was kind of on her own. But technology helps communicate and for me to help support her. And my daughter was kind of like a dream. Like she, in the beginning, like she had this short, lots of feedings, and she's up lots, and sleep of course goes out the window. But it was rare. Like probably when she was 4 or 5 months old, she started sleeping through the night. And it was just, I'm like, oh my God, we can't get any luckier than this. Like she was putting 8 hours and 12 hours in overnight, and I'm like, oh my God, we've hit the jackpot. Like,
you know, you hear a lot of people talk about how difficult the first couple months are going to be with sleep and this, that, and the other. Well, with our first child, it's only one child so far, we've been kind of lucky because it's been fairly easy. Like when Jada was born, we brought her home. We had a bassinet set up for her on the side of the bed. She could be passed out in your arms, but as soon as you set her in that bassinet, all hell breaks loose. There's no chance she was sleeping in that, and she knew it. So we also had a crib set up for her, so then we would transfer her to the crib. Same thing. Her favorite place was right in the middle of the bed. She'd sleep throughout the night, not a problem catching up on sleep, right? But when it comes to, you know, becoming a parent and growing to a parent, you know, like these guys said, it's always a learning curve. You're always learning and you're always growing from it because things change, right? One day is not going to be the same as the next day, right? I personally found that, you know, my role as a father didn't really kick in until after the 5-month mark where I could actually do stuff with her, right? Because all the time before it's just changing diaper. That's it, right? Change diaper, burp on your shoulder, you're back to her mother. Because, you know, her mother wanted her, and there wasn't really much you could do yet anyway. So there was that. Jolly Jumper was amazing. Yeah, because during football season, football season's not too far behind, right? So every Sunday is football game, right? And we put her in her Jolly Jumper, and she just sit there just watching the TV, just bouncing, touchdown, bounce, right? So it was awesome, and it still is. What I know about who I am now as a father, as a man, is that I have tons of patience.
patience is a big thing. But you end up thinking about somebody else instead of yourself. I guess it would be, you're less selfish, and you need to grow into that, and you need to sacrifice a lot of the stuff that you were used to when you were single, or when you were when it was just you and your wife. It's definitely you grow into a different you. You become a father. The moments with my daughter and my son are more precious than anything. It's just, it's remarkable how you change as a whole. You lose that, I don't know, rough edge and tough guy that you were, and you melt into this pile of goo. But I don't know, it's interesting.
What I realized is my capacity to love and my capacity for patience has completely changed, or I guess it's not something I ever thought about before. Yeah, it teaches you patience whether you want to learn it or not, I think, becoming a parent. And just love, just like every time I see their face, even when they've done something horrible. You can't, I mean, I don't know, it's just, I guess my capacity for love has changed on a whole, right? It just, they're my world, really. At the end of the day, though, for me and my wife, it's if it feels right for you, don't second guess yourself.
I found that, just becoming a dad, you realize you're raising another you. When they do certain things, all I do is I look over to my wife and say, I can't even get mad because I did that. We become coaches, right? Coaches of our own little people in their own little world. And all we can do is be there to help coach them through life, right? And at the end of the day, that's just how parenting is.
Don't be afraid to embrace things. Like I was pretty, closed-minded in the beginning. I was against midwives and doulas and all that. And after being through all that, I couldn't do it without them. The midwives were amazing. The transformation to parenthood is easier than you expected. You can do it. If you want to have children, because there's nothing to be afraid of.
For me, I find the transformation to parenthood is an adventure. You're gonna have some bumps and curves and turns, but at the end of the tunnel, it's all worth it.
For me, the transformation to parenthood is a journey, and it's constantly changing, and I'm learning new things every day, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
And the truth is, from my perspective, is that there is nothing more freaking amazing and astounding, full stop, than raising a couple of little people and preparing them for the world. I actually only have one word that begins to sum it up, is the transformation to parenthood is becoming.
Fathers are sometimes overlooked when there is so much emphasis on the pregnant person, their labor, and transition as a parent. Today we've seen that fathers have their own path and that it's important to appreciate their experiences as they journey on the transformation to parenthood. Thanks for joining us. There was a trip there.